I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please subscribe, like the video, and share it. Thanks. So here's assignment number 3. As you'll notice, is quite less verbose as from the previous assignments. You're leaving you a little bit more leeway, although there's some requirements on what is. We're assuming that you're using the same good practices that we've been introducing in the previous assignments, the same patterns that we've been suggesting, the same naming conventions, the same directory structure. All that is implied, okay? Even though it might not state it explicitly, that's all those requirements that we've set up earlier in the previous assignments. Those same things apply here. So yes, it assumes that you've completed the previous 2 assignments, that you have an environment running on a Java server, middle tier, that you have a React client up and running, and that you've already completed implementing being able to add a course, add a module to a course, add a lesson to a module. Okay. Optionally, you might have gone ahead and added topics to lessons, but that's optional. That was a bonus. If you haven't, that's fine. That you don't have to. But in some of the assignment, you might find things such as, depending on whether you did implement topics or you didn't implement topics, there might be some things that might be a little different. Okay. So for this one, for this assignment, you'll be adding a couple more features. Once you have created, once the faculty can create a course, and once the faculty can create a module and be able to create a lesson, they need to be able to add content to the lesson, right? So in here, we're going to be using widgets as the idea of content, right? A generic piece of content, a widget that you can add to a lesson. And here are some simple widgets we're going to tackle this first week. Next week we'll tackle some more sophisticated types of widgets, right? But these are fairly simple. They're going to be a heading widget, like heading 1, 2, 3. That's simple, right? Where you can set the size of a heading. Also add just a plain old paragraph that contains just plain old text. Also a list widget where you can type a number of list items, right? And it renders them either as an unordered list or a ordered list. A link widget that you can provide a hyperlink or a href to some other document. And an image widget where you can include an image and link it to somewhere where it can be loaded and showed as part of the content. All right, so this is fairly simple. Let's take a look at that. So here's a mock-up of what it might look like. Right, you have for the assignment number 2, you work on creating modules on the left-hand side, being able to add lessons at the top tabs. Right, perhaps you work on topics, maybe not. Right, but that's not required. In any case, you're adding now the right-hand side main content listed here. Right, we're going to call this the widget editor. Right, or I'm sorry, it's a widget list, right, editor. So it's a list of widgets that you can add. Notice that there's a plus sign at the bottom, right, that allows you to add a new widget. And there's a preview toggle button on the top right, and there's a save button. See that? Right. So basically, the faculty is going to be able to add any number of widgets, right, and they're going to be cached here on the client. Not until they click on save will it be sent over to the server, right? So if they refresh the page, right, they would lose all their content, right, because this is not being saved to the server. As a bonus, right, it asks you to detect whether you're trying to navigate away, right, and ask you have unsaved content. Do you want me to save, right? As another bonus, as you interact with the widgets, if you change anything, if you update, it will immediately save back to the server, right? So it's an eager web service as opposed to as a lazy web service, right? It's a chatty web service. Every time you do something here, it goes and tells the server. Right? All right. Notice that here's an A widget, but there's a whole bunch of types of widgets. Notice that each widget has a drop down. then you can configure the type of widget. Right? So this is a heading widget. Notice that it has an X, right, to be able to remove the widget. Also up and down arrows, so you can rearrange the widget up and down. As a bonus, we ask you that you can drag this widget up and down, right? So you can move it around on the screen and move it to the bottom or up, and then just drop it in place where you want to let it go. Okay, that's a bonus. Let's see. Notice that each widget has a description of what type of widget it is, and it has some form elements that allow you to configure the widget. The heading widget allows you to type the text for the heading. Also a drop-down that allows you to select either heading 1, 2, or 3. And it has a widget name. All widgets have this field, widget name. Okay? All different widgets will have different types of specific elements that you can configure, but all widgets have widget name. Yes? Right? And that's later on, it will allow us to be able to refer to the widget by name. Right, so from other places in the system, you're going to be able to refer to it by name. Right, so hey, give me the value in that widget over there, right, by name. What else? Also down below, notice that it has a preview of what the widget would look like. See that? Okay. And notice that there's a toggle button that says preview. Notice that it's off right now. Right? If you turn it on, right, all the forms go away, right? All the buttons go away. You just are left with the preview, right? That would give you a preview of what the content would actually look like, right? When it's being consumed by the student. Make sense? Right? By default, it's off. Right? Excellent. Let's see what else. So here's a wireframe of what this might look like. Here's a list of a couple of widgets. Now we're going to just focus on the list of widgets. Right? I'm not going to talk about the lessons or the modules on the left-hand side. Right? I'm just going to talk about the widget list. Here are two widgets, one after another. Notice the save, the preview, the heading widget first, and then down below there's another widget called the list widget. This is just a wireframe just to show you what the list looks like. We'll talk about each individual widget in a minute. So here's another list widget. Notice that it's very clear where one of the widget begins and ends, and the other widget begins and ends. Okay? And down below you have a plus that allows you to add a new widget. All right, we'll talk about the list widget in a minute, but that's the wireframe of the widget list editor. Okay? All right, you have an add button. So each one of these describes the behavior of each one of these. Says that when you do a plus, it adds a widget, right? And the default widget that is added is a heading. It's a heading widget of size 1. That's the default widget that is added. But you can always change it with the drop-down. Okay? As a bonus, it'd be nice if it would remember, right? It would remember, right? What's the latest type of widget I just added, right? So it kind of remembers without me having to select again and again, or provide me with some settings or some configuration that would allow me to declare it as my default. Maybe a toggle somehow, right? It says set as default or something, right? And another nice bonus would be able to copy a widget, right? You already have a widget, a whole bunch of images maybe, right? And you can just copy, or clone or duplicate or something, right? That'd be cool. All right, so add widget. There's a select widget dropdown. So this dropdown, it selects all. It shows you all the types of widgets, which are heading, list, paragraph, image. I forget some other. And when you select that dropdown, this re-renders. This widget re-renders in place. Okay. And any data that the faculty might have added, okay, will be redisplayed, so it doesn't lose any previous information you might have had. Okay, so so as you select a different type of widget, right, this re-renders, right, in place. Let's see, add widget button. So select widget, the delete widget button If you delete the widget, any of the widget, if you have like 10 widgets and you remove one in the middle, the whole list re-renders. Okay, without the widget you just removed. Also, the position buttons, right? There's an up and down that allows you to move the widget down or up, right? Maybe a better solution to that might have been a drop down with all the positions. Maybe move down all the way to the bottom, all the way to the top, or move to a particular position. That might be cool, right? Or allow you to drag and drop. That'd be nice. But those could be bonuses. Also, a save widget list button, right? So the server is not notified of any of these widgets until you click on save. Okay. The preview check button, right? If you toggle and you turn it on, this preview here. I'm sorry, this heading widget and list widget. When you click on the toggle, everything else disappears, and you're just left with the preview of what it would look like, right? So all the forms go away, all the buttons go away, you're left only with the content. Yes? Until you click on preview again, and then everything reappears, right? As a bonus, it'd be cool if you could edit individual widgets, right? So that by default, they are in preview mode, right? And if you want to edit it, then you click on edit, and it only shows the form for that particular widget. That'd be cool, right? As a bonus, right? So instead of a single preview button, there will be a per widget edit button, right? Which would be kind of like the inverse, right, of the preview button. Widget name attribute. So all widgets have a widget name attribute. Notice that as we'll see in a minute, all these forms, right, don't have labels. See that? They don't have labels. And so instead of this having a label, notice that notice that this is just like a placeholder, right, grayed out. It's a placeholder. They don't have labels, but you're required to add some labels, okay, based on your best guess on what it might look like. So for instance, here you could use those texts, right, heading text or heading size or widget name as a label, right, as a label. Also the placeholder, I believe the placeholder, I ask you to also put placeholders and to use your best judgment for the placeholders. Widget properties and formulas are changing. Any of the widget property updates the widget preview. Yes, as you change the data, right, the size of the text or the actual text of the heading, right, the preview changes on the fly. Okay, so it changes as you type. All right, so now we're going to look at individual widgets, right, how they behave. So here's a heading widget. So the heading widget has a text. It also has a size and the preview down below. So it has a heading size. A widget property configures a heading size. The default is heading 1. So there it is. So heading 1, 2, 3. Heading text is the text of the widget, obviously. And then there's paragraph widget. Paragraph widget allows you to enter a piece of text in there. It'd be nice if you actually type HTML in here. Okay, it would actually render as HTML in here. So if you type, less than H1, H1 tag, and you type in actual HTML, this would render down below as HTML, as opposed to escaping the text, right? We'll see how to do that. It's pretty easy. But over here, the requirements don't say that. Right? The requirements say it's just plain text. Right? It's just so as described here, it would escape any special characters. Right? They would be escaped, and that's fine. List widget allows you to enter a same thing. It's a text area, and then parses the text area. So that every line, every element in individual lines, they're converted into line items. Right? So here it says put each item in a separate row, gets converted into this list over here. So it parses it, looks for the end of a new line character, right? And then it it splits it in by new line, right? And then it just iterates over it and generates this. And you can change it to unordered list or an ordered list. Okay. What else? The image widget allows you to type a URL. So if you find an image somewhere on the web, you can just copy the URL, right? And you can paste it in here, and it renders automatically using an IMG tag. Okay. What else? And then there's the link widget. If you provide a URL and you provide the text for the link. Oh, why are there two? Huh. I really like my channel. Why did I place it twice? I don't know why. I guess it's supposed to be only once, right? And so there's a link, the preview to the link. If you click it, right, it should navigate to that link. And let's see what else. I think that's it. All right, so that's the front end, right? And the assignment asks you to implement this using Redux. Right, same thing. React, everything you've seen so far for the assignment number 2. But now for these new features, you're going to be using Redux as your state management. Right, you don't need to go back and re-engineer the previous assignment. That can stay the same. Right, that's using just the out-of-the-box state management that comes with React. Right. This one says, okay, well, now that you know how to do that, all right, let's instead of using the out-of-the-box state management, or let's use this better solution. Right? And this is a very sought-after skill out there in the in industry, right? So everybody's looking for React with Redux, or React with Flux, or React with a whole bunch of these other. So yeah, for the back end, for the middle tier. We'll need to create some data model, right? So up until last assignment, you worked all the way up to perhaps courses, modules, lessons, maybe topic, maybe not. Right? If you didn't work on topic, that's fine. You just cross it out. It's between lessons and widget. So one course has many modules, one module has many lessons, one lesson has many either topics or many widgets, depending on where you are. Okay. So for the widgets, these are the we're going to be using inheritance to model the fact that all widgets have some common properties. Right? They all have a name. Right? They all have a particular order in the list. Right? They all have a text, a piece of text to display. They all might have a class name. Right, so you can style it. Right, somebody can put a class in there and style it. They all have a width and they all have a height. Okay. Notice that we're not asking you to put a form elements for these just yet. Okay, we'll ask for you to do that in the next assignment. So that's the base class, right? That handles widget. For all the other types of widgets. The heading widget, the link, the image, the paragraph, the list, all these have specific attributes or properties, right, such as the heading has a size, the link has an href. The only one that doesn't have anything specific here is paragraph. It's just inheriting from text. Right? I couldn't think of any attribute that was specific to the paragraph. Okay, so I don't know if you can think of one, maybe you can add it there. So we're asking you to use the same technologies we used last week for JPA. The only added complexity here is that we are adding inheritance. We're using inheritance here. See that? In the previous assignment, we introduced one-to-many and many-to-one relationships, right? Here we're making it just slightly more challenging. We're adding now inheritance. The base class, and these classes are now inheriting from the top level class. So anyway, there's this challenge to do that, and we'll talk about it on how to model it using JPA. What else? CRUD repository. Here are the web services to expose this data model. And so it'll be get API widget returns all the widgets across all lessons. I don't know that you would ever want to do that, but I think it's a good debugging tool. Right? If you post a new widget, I just want to look at it, see if it's there. There's you can retrieve an individual widget by saying /API widget and then the widget ID. You can retrieve one individual widget. You can retrieve the widgets for a given lesson. So give me a lesson, right, and I'll retrieve the widgets for that lesson. If you instead implemented topics, right, then this would be topic ID, right? Okay. You can add a widget to a given lesson or topic by posting, right, to this URL. You can modify a widget by widget and knowing just the ID of the widget. Right? I don't need to know the lesson. I don't need to know the topic. Right? Just to modify a widget, I just need to know the ID of that widget. Or you can remove that particular widget by sending a delete to that URL. Okay. And here are some of the bonuses I mentioned earlier. I'll add a couple more. And as a delivery, now you have two repositories now, right? You have the middle tier repository and you have your React repository. Yes, right? So you'll need to create a release on both of them, right? So for this upcoming submission on Wednesday, right? Create a release for both of them. Call it, assignment 2 for both of them. And when you submit it on Blackboard, submit the URLs to both of them. The URLs are only as a courtesy to the TA, so they can immediately go to your repository. They'll probably already have a list of all the repositories for all of you, but as a courtesy, right, they can just click on that repo, that link, and they can immediately go to your repo. Yes? Yes?
Wait, is it the release or just a link to your repo?
The release is even better.
Okay.
But the repos
prefer the release.
Yeah, because they can. It saves them one extra click of going into the releases. But yeah, if you link the release. Also, both repositories should point to each other, right? In the README file, each repo should state that somehow they're related to this other repo. Right? And they should say that they're two sides of the same coin. All right. If you make a mistake and you need to resubmit, you need to make another release. You can just create a new release, say assignment 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, or whatever, right? And then you can resubmit the other assignment, the new release. Okay. And we'll be taking we'll be only considering the release date as a timestamp on whether the submission is late or not. Okay, if you think you made a mistake submitting it in Blackboard, if Blackboard's a bit late, we don't really care. We want to make sure that the release is created on time. Yes. All right. What else? I think that's it. Any questions? Hi, I'm Jose Anunciato, and you're watching the WebDev channel.